So now I'm going to hand things over to Kristen Bauman, who is one of CQL's full-time quality enhancement specialists, and Kristen's going to handle introductions and get us all started. Kristen?
All right. Thank you, Seth. Hello, everyone. And thank you again for joining us for this really exciting Accreditation Frequently Asked Questions webinar. This is the fourth version of that. As Seth had said, I'm Kristen Bowman, and I'm here along with Catherine Dunbar, who is the Vice President of Services and System Excellence, as well as Gretchen Block, the Director of Partner Engagement. We are going to be answering some of your burning accreditation questions today. Just a little bit about CQL. Our vision is a world of opportunity, dignity, and community for all people. And our mission is that CQL is dedicated to the definition and improvement of personally defined quality of life. With CQL accreditation, there are more than 490 organizations worldwide that are accredited by CQL. That's in 25 states in the United States, including the Tennessee IDD system, all North Dakota and South Dakota organizations, as well as Canada and Ireland. And now Gretchen is going to talk about the benefits of CQL accreditation.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. This is a question that we get frequently, so I think we've got a lot of good information to share with you. And feel free for everybody on the call today and everybody listening later on, reach out to any of us at any point in time. If you think of other questions in the future, that's what we're here for. So as far as the benefits of accreditation, we feel that this is an open, honest, and unbiased opportunity to provide you with feedback during accreditation visits and the various activities that we facilitate with you. We really try to embrace a partnership that helps you achieve accreditation with your entire team, offering you support, guidance, resources, check-ins, and insight. But in addition to that, you're going to get things like a very robust marketing toolkit. We want you to proudly display your CQL accreditation logo, letting people know of your achievement. These webinars, like the one you're attending today, we offer multiple webinars throughout the year, both for accreditation as well as for personal outcome measures, and a lot of them are free. You can also catch them later on if you're not able to join the live session. We offer our capstone newsletters and, offer very timely articles, research briefs, lots of great data. I think networking with other accredited organizations is a great benefit of partnering with CQL. We see people doing that through things like our Facebook page and, our recent conference that we held in October. We saw a lot of great networking happening there as well. Please know if you partner with us, we want you to and encourage you to reach out and utilize our experts here at CQL. Our quality enhancement specialists are a fabulous resource, not only during accreditation visits, but throughout your accreditation term. You'll have access to things like our portal data system. And keep in mind as well, if you're ever interested in any training that comes with a fee, if you are an accredited organization or you are in the process of seeking accreditation, there is a 5% discount for you. Just reach out and we'll give you the code to access that discount. The other thing that we get asked a lot is what sets CQL apart from other accrediting bodies. Now, I think if you happen to know other providers that have gone through the process of accreditation with us, you're going to get a lot of great information and insight from them. Feel free to reach out. You can see all of the organizations that are accredited by CQL on our website at any time. But I think the most important takeaway today is CQL meets you where you are. We don't expect perfection. There's no percentage that you have to meet in order to get accredited. What we're looking for is full transparency and commitment to a partnership with CQL. That commitment is defined by things like responsiveness, meeting deadlines, addressing recommendations that our team provides for you. We're also looking for forward momentum on the goals that you establish for yourselves. We will tell you right away if we observe any red flags that might jeopardize your chance of achieving accreditation, and we want to support you to change those red flags into green flags. And we do actually have a webinar that talks all about that you can access on our website at any time. I think the really great thing about the accreditation experience with CQL, though, is that while we will want to review things like your policies, your plans, things you have in writing that tell us how your organization operates, honestly, our focus is all about people. We want to hear directly from people that are part of your world, the people you support, your frontline staff, your DSPs, family members of people you support, and even community partners that might be connected to your organization in meaningful ways. Because it's people that's at the heart of what you do and what we will be doing together. I also love that the vast majority of our team has previously and in many cases still are working as providers themselves. Our quality enhancement specialists have a background that gives them an excellent perspective on what it's like to do what you do as providers.
Thank you, Gretchen. Another question that we get asked very frequently is what exactly is accreditation? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that from our perspective. And accreditation really is kind of that formal recognition of an organization for attaining a specified set of standards. So at CQL, we look at the basic assurances and the personal outcome measures. Depending on the type of accreditation, we'll also look at the person-centered excellence goals and the What Really Matters plans. We don't look at it. I mean, there are some agencies that look at accreditation as, kind of like passing a test. We have to do this to comply with our, state requirements or to comply with a grant. And those are absolutely fine ways. But accreditation is a lot more than that. It's not passing a test. It's really about supporting you on your quality journey. It's, guiding that consistent and integrated quality management based on feedback, recommendations, marking your progress. We always say that we meet organizations where they're at and then just help them on their quality journey while they, day after day do the jobs that they're supposed to be doing and providing the services that people want. So it's really just a part of your accreditation journey, and it validates the things that you're doing well and gives recommendations for those things that you might want to do better. So, Gretchen, for those agencies that want to learn more about accreditation with CQL, where do they start?
The best thing to do if you'd like to chat about accreditation is go ahead and head on over to our website, the accreditation section, and fill out an inquiry. There is a link that you can click, and then we'll ask you some brief questions, hit submit, and then it'll probably be me that reaches out to you, and we'll chat about any and all questions that you have. And I think Seth will probably make sure we share that link with you as well. Another question that we get asked that I want to touch on right now, what do we need to do as a provider in order to qualify for accreditation? What are the steps? What's the process? So for this question, just want you to be aware that organizations that provide services consistent with CQL's area of expertise are welcome to reach out to see if we would be a good partner for you. Our teams specialize in services for people with intellectual disabilities of all ages. We work a lot with providers that provide services to seniors, people with mental health disabilities, case management organizations, organizations that provide substance use supports, and more. So after you submit that inquiry, we will contact you to discuss all of your questions. We're going to talk about the process itself, the type of accreditation you would be eligible for, and what all of the steps entail in getting there. If an organization chooses to submit an application for accreditation, we'll get that application reviewed, schedule you to work with our team, and then we're going to start sending you information to help you begin the preparation process. The first thing that you'll get will be a link to our Basic Assurances manual, our Basic Assurances webinar series, and then we're going to start setting up meetings with you to walk you through the process and help you prepare for accreditation visits. And then one more question, Kate, that I want to address, and then I'll kick it back over to you. We get asked about timelines. How quickly can I get accredited? What timeline can I expect? So typically, I tell providers to submit their application. We call it a request for engagement. Get that application in a good 7 to 9 months in advance of when you'd like your first visit with CQL. Doing so, giving yourself that time, is going to help ensure that you have the time you need to prepare successfully, to review all of the resources that we will share with you, manuals, webinars, to complete a very comprehensive Basic Assurances self-assessment, as well as having those planning conversations and meetings with our team that will support you to prepare successfully for that first visit. And honestly, organizations that take advantage of all of those pre-planning activities and resources that we offer, those are typically the organizations that successfully achieve accreditation during that first visit. So don't sell yourself short. Give yourself plenty of time to prepare before that first visit without feeling like you're rushing through things. All right, Kate, back to you.
Sure, I feel like we're anchoring a news show. Gretchen, back to you. So, just kidding. So, one of the other questions that we get asked very, very often is about the types of accreditation. So, I'm going to review those quickly. There's definitely more information on our website about the different types of accreditation. The first type of accreditation that I want to discuss is called a systems accreditation, and this is a 1-year accreditation for organizations that have not yet started services, but they are committed to starting services. So there are some states in the U.S. that require accreditation prior to being approved for funding within a state system. So what we do is we work with that organization on its systems. So we work with you on policies and some procedures, and we talk you through those in alignment with the basic assurances to really help you lay that foundation for a solid organization. So, the policies around rights, the policies around training, what is your training going to look like? What are your procedures for rights protection going to look like? So just a few examples there. And we'll walk you through that process so they'll be in alignment with the basic assurances. So that's the first type of accreditation. Once an organization has those systems in place and they are providing services to people, is our next type of accreditation, which is the Quality Assurances Accreditation. So this is a 3-year accreditation specifically targeted to organizations that are brand new to CQL, or for organizations that have had some significant shifts in mission, maybe the mission and vision of the organization has changed. Maybe leadership has changed. Maybe the organization has been through some struggles and just needs to reinvigorate their quality framework. So this is the type of accreditation that is meant for organizations that are brand new or organizations that want to get back to that those foundational values and systems and practices within an organization. So we want to make sure that for those organizations that really want to focus on turning their systems into practices, that we meet them where they're at with a quality assurances accreditation. And each type of accreditation, except for systems, has what we call mid-cycle visits. And we'll chat about those a little further on today when we get more deeply into our conversation here. The next type of accreditation is person-centered excellence accreditation. And this is a 4-year accreditation. And it focuses on the basic assurances. And just the basic assurances are the foundation for any type of accreditation. So for every type of accreditation, there will be a focus on basic assurances. What we also include in the PCE accreditation is the agency has to be using the personal outcome measures, which is a discovery tool for people receiving services. We also focus on shared values with this type of accreditation. So when I talk about use of the personal outcome measures, that does not mean that you have to have someone who has had specific training in the personal outcome measures. Of course, we love it when organizations do that, but we don't require it. What we do require is use of the tool for person-centered excellence accreditation. We also look at another set of plans that are called either the PCE, the person-centered excellence plans, or the What Really Matters goals. Those terms are used interchangeably. And this level of accreditation really works to transform your person-centered philosophies into organizational practices, and then using that data to inform the organization and drives agency-wide decision making. So again, a 4-year accreditation. With this type of accreditation, there are 2 mid-cycle visits, one at 18 months and one at 36 months, and we discuss progress of plans. And like I said, we'll discuss that a little further on. The other type of accreditation that we offer is person-centered excellence accreditation with distinction. This is a type of accreditation that, again, builds on the basics of the basic assurances, personal outcome measures, what really matters goals. And we also look at other types of things with this organization. So we look at the impact of supports that the agency has had. We have very strict standards when it comes to use of the personal outcome measures. With this type of accreditation, there does have to be valid and reliable personal outcome measure interviewers. We also look at how deeply embedded person-centered approaches and practices are within the organization. We look at things like advocacy. We look at impact on community. We look at all types of stakeholders with the agency, and we have conversations around all of those. We currently have, I believe it is 8 organizations who have achieved person-centered excellence with distinction. And it is a more robust system, and there's a lot more reliance on data when it comes to PCE with distinction. So now Kristen and Gretchen are going to be talking about getting prepared for accreditation. Gretchen, why don't you tell everybody what it's like to get started?
All right. Thanks, Kate. So you've gone through the process of applying for accreditation. We've got you scheduled. Now the next step is to send you a formal letter that outlines key information like the cost of your accreditation, any deadlines, a type of accreditation, all sorts of important information. You'll get that letter typically no sooner than about 6 months ahead of your visit. And at that time, you're also going to get access to the self-assessments that you will be required to complete as part of the process. And you're going to get additional resources and a request from us to schedule your first pre-planning meeting. So you'll meet with a member of our partner engagement team for your first, typically it's on Zoom or Team, it's a video meeting where we'll talk through the basics, what you can expect, what the visit is going to look like, how to prepare, and we'll get you introduced and sent on over to the person that will be leading your accreditation. Now, oftentimes these are things that you've heard previously. We're going to talk about a lot of this information during initial conversations. You can reach out if you want to review information. We're going to go through it again during pre-planning. The point is to make sure that you are feeling very comfortable about what's going to be happening, how you need to prepare so that you are successful. So again, we'll get you a formal letter of engagement, we'll meet, we'll get you some resources, and then we're going to send you on over to folks like Kristen, who Kristen's one of our fabulous quality enhancement specialists who leads accreditation activities. So she's going to walk you through what comes after that initial pre-planning conversation.
All right. Thanks, Gretchen. So after that, a CQL quality enhancement specialist will reach out and schedule a planning time to really start discussing logistics. There's a lot of organization and planning that goes into planning your accreditation week. Typically, preparation begins around 6 to 8 weeks in advance, and you will be asked to submit corresponding documentation, which is evidence of what the basic assurances look like within your organization. So what are types of evidence, you may ask? These are those policies and procedures that are related to the basic assurances, person-centered plans, organizational charts, your quality assurance data, strategic plans, employee manual, emergency and disaster plans, those success stories, which are always exciting to hear about, and really just anything that the organization feels shows strong evidence around the basic assurances. We'll ask that you share these with the quality enhancement specialist working with you in advance, along with that completed organizational basic assurances self-assessment. And this will be uploaded using a preferred file sharing platform agreed upon by everyone on the team. Another part of getting organized is that the organization, you'll be asked to prepare a brief presentation about yourself to really kick off the accreditation week. It's a great time for organizations to really look at the highlights of themselves, their mission, vision, success stories, challenges, and it really helps CQL to get to know the culture of the organization right off the bat of the week. And another thing that you'll be working on as a team is that big schedule. So a lot of logistic planning comes around the schedule. It has several moving parts and pieces. Some of the pieces that includes our factor conversations, focus groups, a personal outcome measure interview, and visits with people. So as a planning team, CQL and the organization will really work to develop a robust and super busy schedule for the week of the accreditation. One question that gets asked a lot is who should organizations have participate in those factor meetings and discussions, especially if there's no pre-formed organizational factor groups? Really, the people that you want to be there are the people who are knowledgeable in the factor areas. For example, factor 5 is best possible health. So organizations would want to have people, the health experts in those if possible. Also consider including people with diverse experiences from all parts of the organizations and talking about what that factor looks like in each service sector of the organization. Another great thing is when self-advocates can join factor groups and really give that real life experience of what that looks like within the organization. Next question are what are the best strategies for planning a successful virtual focus group? And how can we achieve the adequate number of participants? When you're really looking at selecting the focus group participants, it's really important to have a variety of people with all kinds of different experiences, tenure, service lines, and that will really help to paint a clear picture of how that factor area looks in all parts of the organization. For virtual accreditations, it's really helpful to have everyone on their own electronic device if possible to really, help conversation move freely. As part of virtual accreditation activities, CQL will provide the connection link, so that's not something you necessarily have to worry about on the agreed connection links. And it's typically one link for the entire week, which tends to work really well for ease of access for people to join. All right, so what's included in, or what are CQL expectations for visits to people's homes or where they receive services? And how is it best to plan to support people receiving services to take the lead during CQL visits? Great question. So during an accreditation visit, we do like to visit people. We like to talk to people, see where they live, hang out with them a little bit. And the most important thing is that the person wants to have a visitor at their home, just as we wouldn't want people showing up at our home unannounced. That's not something that we do, and we're extremely respectful when visiting someone's home. We don't need to see people's bedrooms, unless, of course, they want to show it off because it's decorated in a really cool way. That happens a lot. But we're not there to like do a site inspection or anything like that. We're just trying to experience the overall vibe of the place and of the home. We love it when people who live there take the lead and give us the tour. That it can be as long or as short as people want. Sometimes people just want to eat dinner and not even visit, but sometimes they want to chat a little longer, and that's fine too. So that's kind of what that looks like in a nutshell. Interesting question that happens sometimes, but what happens if someone refuses to do scheduled POM or a focus group, a tour, any of those items? And really flexibility in the schedule is extremely, extremely important. As you know, people's lives change from day to day, and different changes arise. So we'll always be as accommodating as possible to people's plans and their needs. That's our most important priority. We're immensely grateful if people want to hang out with us and talk to us and show us their houses and be part of the accreditation experience. However, it's completely voluntary. And so we'll never force anybody to do anything. We hope that they want to, but also it's okay if, they decide they want to do something more fun that day. So some other questions that we received, someone said, we are a small provider with limited resources. How can we be successful too when there is so much to do? We partner with organizations of all sizes, from one person to several thousands. So we recommend, as a smaller organization, think big, but start small. As Kate had said, CQL meets you where you are and will really help you to prioritize the opportunities that are discovered during the accreditation experience. One thing we always recommend too is just listening to your stakeholders. What are their priorities? Where do they want you to start? But celebrating the wins are huge, and this accreditation experience really gives you a chance to look back and to celebrate. Again, CQL is always there for advice. If you need us, we are always here to help, and that's a big part of the partnership that we have with organizations. Another question from the audience: we've never worked with CQL before, and we need to get accredited. Can we speak with an organization that has worked with you previously and ask about their experience with you? As Gretchen had pointed out, on our website, you will have a list of all the organizations that are accredited through CQL in your area and beyond. It often links to their website too, so if you want to get on and check that out, that's a great idea. We're also happy to make connections. That's something that we have done for a lot of organizations. And we have some great articles that we've co-authored with providers that really talk about the accreditation experience. They have tons of good ideas and perspectives too. So that's another area. So I'm going to ask Kate, so are there any changes? Because things are always changing in life. Are there any changes or new elements that we should know about within the accreditation process?
So most of the activities we facilitate during the accreditation visits are going to be very familiar to people who've worked with us before. We haven't made too many changes for several reasons. First, it works. The focus groups that we do, the factor conversations that we have, the personal outcome measures conversations that we have, the visits where people receive services, all of those work to effectively gain the information that we need to provide meaningful feedback to you. So, everything that we do helps us determine the presence of the probes within the basic assurances. So some of the things that have changed are in the last few years most accreditations are hybrid. We do leave it to the organization if they want just one or the whole team on site during accreditation. So there are things that we can do virtually that we were not able to do before. And, the organization works with us to get all of that set up through various, Zoom links or Teams chats or whatever virtual platform is working for the organization. So we do learn something new with each visit. We also ask for your feedback. You'll get a survey at the end of your accreditation visit that asks for some information so we can look at how things, how we may need to change things. So one of the things that we really want to do is to make sure that we're helping you celebrate your successes, because that's kind of what motivates all of us. We're much more likely to respond in a positive way when we're getting positive feedback. So that has not changed, and that will continue into the far future as far as we're concerned. We have added an additional focus group due to feedback from partner agencies. We added a focus group for that frontline supervisor position. And, so those managers or supervisors that are directly responsible for supporting and supervising the people who provide direct support to people. They're called different things in different organizations. So we're doing that focus group, and that really helps us get a sense of how the goals of the organization are filtering throughout the organization. It also helps us learn how things, are truly happening on the ground when it comes to supporting the direct supporters of people. So that has led to some very, very valuable information. The feedback that we get from those staff, or from all of our focus groups really, is invaluable. The other thing that we'll continue to do that, we may not have done in the past is to branch out into other focus groups that may support the organization, especially when it comes to learning about the organization. So if you're a provider that's providing, services to or solely case management services, then we're going to want to do some family focus groups. We may want to do some focus groups with organizations that you work with, to see how information flows and those relationships are made. One of the things that we heard also was about quality assurances the second visit. Typically, we would always do that second visit on site. However, we've learned that that may not have to be the case. If your state requires an on-site visit for during the accreditation cycle, if they require 2 on-site visits, then we're going to go ahead and do that. But for some organization, it works for us to do that off-site. So what you'll see more and more with the accreditation process also is that the personal outcome measure interviews are being done ahead of time sometimes, which allows us more time when we're, right there with you on site, allows us more time to really dig in a little more deeply with you and help you find those places within your organizations that are really shining, so we can, support you to spotlight those. So keep the feedback coming. We're definitely appreciative of it. And we'll, continue to make tweaks as the feedback guides us to do. Another question that we get very often is when an organization adds services, how that impacts their accreditation. So, are CQL's expectations different? What kind of happens on to the accreditation process if an organization is adding services. And what we say is that the basic assurances are applicable to all organizations. So we'll continue to use those basic assurances, and we'll tell you how that they may apply. So, for instance, if you're only providing substance use services, there are some of the basic assurances that aren't necessarily going to apply. If you add services where some of those other basic assurances would apply, then that's what we will guide you to do. So one of the things within the partnership engagement is to notify CQL when you add services, especially if those services are different than the ones that you were providing when we first met with you. And our QSs will walk you through the process of getting those services added. Again, CQL wants to look at the organization holistically, because good organizations don't operate in silos. And we want to make sure that, the basic assurances are fluid throughout the organization. So, Kristen, I'm sure you have this question a lot, and I know it's one of your favorites to answer, but what do you think is one of the most challenging aspects of accreditation for providers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know we talked a little bit before about preparation, but really preparing effectively is a huge challenge. Everybody's busy and it takes a lot of time, but really making sure that everything is in line for the week. Again, it's a super busy week, and lots of people are involved. Again, please take advantage with all the resources and planning meetings that CQL offers. Another thing is to really make sure that the right people are at the table for all the activities, and to frame it just going out the gate as a really exciting and positive time and journey for sharing and learning. It's a partnership, and we don't come into it looking to find things that the organization is doing wrong. We really do use an appreciative inquiry approach and look at opportunities for the organization to grow. We don't come in, and try to find things that are wrong, but we really want everybody involved to be transparent and open during the process to really gain as much insight as possible and to really get the most out of the accreditation experience. After the accreditation is awarded, there's all this great momentum, but it's really important for the organization to stay focused on the goals that have been developed at the first visit. And we really want to see a forward momentum that is consistent on those goals during the second and third check-ins. So it's really important to be open and transparent in the process to really gain as much insight as you can and realize that quality is truly a journey and you've never really, really arrived. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about after the first visit.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I said, so Kristen, great segue, because you were just talking about momentum.
Yeah.
And to keep that momentum going, one of the things that CQL does that also sets us apart a little bit from other accrediting bodies is that we check in with you, to see how things are going in a formal way. You can always contact CQL throughout the accreditation term at any point in time that you need support or need to tell us something or want to pick our brains about something or, want some resources. We're always about supporting you in those ways. So for a quality assurances accreditation, so a 3-year cycle, there is a mid-cycle visit at around the 18-month mark. And for person-centered excellence and person-centered excellence with distinction, there's an additional visit. So at the 18-month and the 36-month mark. So what we do during those visits is we really want to help you celebrate the progress that you've made. So typically after a first visit, you'll submit some plans to CQL. And for the second visit, we're going to be checking up on the progress of those plans. What have you done to bring, things into alignment at the organization with the basic assurances? So for instance, maybe you had a goal to ensure that people's rights are protected. And so you've made some changes to your rights committee. So we're going to check to see how things are going. So what we'll look at is the progress that you've made, and then you'll provide the evidence of that progress. So, for instance, if you were improving protecting people's rights, if you wanted to step things up around that, then we would take a look at rights committee minutes. We would take a look at an updated policy. We would take a look at, your data around rights. So, we would just need to see evidence of those goals being attained. That does not mean you have to be perfect. Okay. We just want to see progress. And we say this over and over and over again, progress over perfection. We actually have a sticker that says progress over protection, because that's what we want to see. We don't expect you to be 100%. We just want to see that you're making movement in your goals. We also understand that life happens. And you may take a couple steps forward and then you may take 3 steps back because something happens. So what can we do to support you during those times where you may be struggling a bit? We've talked often throughout this conversation about transparency, and that's what we want. We want you to be transparent so we can support you. We're not there to beat you up. We're not there to, tell you that you're doing everything wrong. We've heard lots of stories, in our years at CQL and all the hundreds of organizations that we've worked with. So we'll be able to give you different perspectives and be able to support you in those struggles. So those mid-cycle visits are really important to look at your progress, celebrate your successes. For the third visit for PCE and PCE with distinction, we ask you what your challenges are, and we want to spend some time talking about your challenges so we can, maybe help you brainstorm through some solutions to some of the struggles that you may be having. So that's always a very helpful conversation to have also. So again, when it comes to after the first visit, we do engage with you formally. At least one more time, possibly 2, and we're always there as a resource for you. So we're going to have Gretchen answer some questions around the accreditation timeline, because we're always getting questions around the timeline. So Gretchen?
All right, thanks, Kate. So what is the usual time frame from the beginning of the process until accreditation is granted? It varies from provider to provider, but again, we're going to recommend give yourself at least a good 6 to 9 months from the time you submit your application until you have that first visit with us. That's going to help ensure that you can prepare effectively without rushing through things. Just to add to that, the timeline is driven not only by CQL's availability, but also what works best for you. We're going to ask you to tell us in the application the weeks you are and are not available. We're going to schedule you based on a week that works for you, and our visits are never unannounced. So keep that in mind as well. Now, we are very busy and we're really excited about that. But we want to make sure that we have you worked into our schedule when it works well for you. So do send in those applications when you can, as soon as you can. And again, if you need any help getting started, you can go to our accreditation page, fill out an inquiry. You can also reach out to me directly anytime. I also wanted to mention, because we've been so busy, we are currently onboarding some new team members. So for those of you that have worked with us in the past, you're going to start seeing some new faces in the future, which we're really excited about. So be watching for that as well.
All right. So we've had a few additional questions provided by registrants at our recent conference. One of them is, what information can you provide on maintaining databases? And I assume this is part of the integrated quality management system, as a way of looking at data. So really, the easy answer, which is not that easy, but you're really going to want as an organization to find out what truly works best for you. Some organizations use Excel spreadsheets, where others use Power BI, and everything in between. It really runs the gamut, and it's really all about what works best for the organization. This would be a great area to ask about if you do decide to kind of chat with some other partner organizations, because again, it really truly varies by organization. Okay. Another question we got, next year will be our fourth CQL accreditation. Any tips on particular focus? So just again, each accreditation cycle, everything is different. A lot changes in the 3 to 4 years. So it's really an exciting time to bring that new energy, maybe some camaraderie with newer staff, and just a focus to really drive the organization. So thinking about how you can, again, celebrate those successes, commiserate some challenges, and really work as a united team towards that quality journey. Some things to focus on above and beyond the basic assurances is looking at how the basic assurances align with your organizational strategic planning. Looking at those shared values, creating goals for the future. You can always focus on protecting and promoting rights, using technology to increase independence, creating community connections, and innovation and advocacy work that the organization has done. Again, you'll want to use that opening presentation that we talked about earlier to really highlight what has changed since the last accreditation. How have you grown and evolved? So use that opening presentation to really highlight the strengths that the organization has, as well as individual accomplishments since the last accreditation. All right, so those were wonderful questions, and now we're going to spend a little bit of time, what we have left, answering some questions that you all might have.
Kristen, we had a good one come in on the chat, and Kate, you might want to chime in a little bit too. So we've got provider organizations that have had the experience of going through not only quality assurances accreditation, but also person-centered excellence accreditation. And they're about to apply to renew their accreditation, but they've had lots of changes at the organization. Would CQL decide to have them go through quality assurances again? Is that something that the organization can decide? And so typically, we're going to tell you, you should choose what you think is best for you. And we are happy to kind of talk through the different components of the accreditation, like Kate did earlier, just to kind of reinforce what would be best for you at this point in time. We've had a lot of providers that have been in your shoes. They've gone through PCE, but then they've experienced a lot of leadership changes, a lot of staff turnover. Maybe they've merged with another organization, and it's time to kind of reset the foundation. That quality assurances accreditation would be a great way to do that. Kate, anything to add?
So that's a really, really good question. It is typically left to the organization what type of accreditation, as long as they qualify for it. So if you're not using the personal outcome measures, then you wouldn't qualify, you wouldn't be eligible for PCE. But for an organization that's gone through significant change, the quality assurances accreditation is just a good reset. We're gonna really laser focus on the basic assurances, and have very robust conversations around those. Your basic assurances plan is solely focused on the basic assurances, and you're not having to focus on the what really matters goals or the PCE goals, which bring in other stakeholders and things like that. There have been times where an organization has said, I want to go through PCE, but there's a team decision that, the quality assurances is maybe your best bet, and your time is better spent on that focus of the quality assurances accreditation type. So, it's not a decision that will be made in a vacuum, and we would be delighted to talk you through the different options and the whys around what may be the best type of accreditation for you.
Awesome. Couple more quick questions. What does accreditation cost? So that's something that I would be happy to chat with anybody about. If you want to learn more about pricing, it's primarily based on the number of people that an organization supports. We're going to look at all of the services that you offer. And sometimes geography does play a role in the cost of accreditation. For example, if an organization is providing services in multiple states. So again, reach out to me, Gretchen, directly if you want to talk about that. And one other thing I wanted to mention, after an organization has engaged with us for accreditation, the application has been submitted. We've gotten your initial engagement fee, which is $2,500. We do offer payment plans. So if that's something that you're interested in, you would just need to let me know. I'll get you hooked up with our finance person and we'll help you out with that. Payment plans are something that CQL does for organizations at no additional charge as long as payments are made on time.
One thing that I would like to add to that, Gretchen, is we also understand the different types of services. You know, if you have episodic services where you may be serving, 3,000 people, but you only see them once. Okay, that's not going to impact the cost as much as serving 3,000 people in more I don't want to say robust because that's not the word I want, but in like 24-hour service or where you're spending significant amounts of time with people. So please understand that we do understand the episodic nature of some supports, and there are places on the application for you to describe those. And then, of course, when you talk to Gretchen or Kim, during the pre-planning process, that is something that you can further explain. We do ask for unduplicated numbers, and that's very important because you may serve one person in a variety of services. If you provide 5 different services, one person may receive 4 of the 5 of those services. We don't want that person necessarily to count 4 times. So, sometimes that number is a little more difficult. I do remember the days where I was having to provide numbers of, people in unduplicated services, and sometimes that was a challenge. So give us a call and we're happy to answer any of those questions for you.
And oftentimes those cost differences, if an organization is supporting a lot of people in case management, for example, or if that is the entirety of what you do as an organization, we may not need to travel for accreditation activities or send as many people for accreditation activities, so you would save on travel costs.
Absolutely. Other questions from the chat box? Or from the Q&A box?
Yes, we did get a question. Can we use the same CQL reviewer for each accreditation term? Can we request a different one?
The answer to those are we do, try to honor requests when we can. It's really based on staff availability. We of course like to mix it up a bit just so you're getting, a good experience. We also, when we're making a team, all of our staff have different areas of expertise. So, let's say that Kristen has a very specific area of expertise, then we're going to want to ensure that your organization is paired with Kristen because she does provide that level of expertise, if that, makes sense. So, we want to make sure that you're getting, our staff that are knowledgeable and really understand the intricacies of what you're doing. So we'll make sure you get the expert in that. So yes, you may request the same reviewer if you would like to, and we will try to honor that request.
We did get another question, and it was, what would prevent an organization from achieving CQL accreditation?
Sure. It boils down to, so our accreditation, another thing that sets us aside a little bit, I think, is that the team, your accreditation team, is authorized to make an accreditation decision. So you will know by the end of the week whether or not you're accredited by CQL. Unless it is PCE with distinction. And we could talk about that, another time, but that is a decision that's made by panel. So what prevents an organization from being accredited is if something happens that's pretty egregious. So, if we're seeing things that are alarming, let's say that, people are being abused or people are being neglected, that's certainly going to be cause for alarm. And, all of our staff are mandated reporters, so they would report those things to the entity that they're supposed to, and also to the organization. If there is a refusal of, or not a refusal, but a big difference in philosophy, if an organization, doesn't believe in promoting rights, for example, we've talked a lot about rights today, then that may cause, a difference, that big difference in philosophy may cause us not to accredit an organization. If an organization does not make progress on goals, that may result in loss of accreditation. If an organization is not transparent, if they hide, something from us that's significant, then, that could result in maybe not being accredited. So, if you tell us that you only provide this type of service, and then we find out that you have, a bunch of other services that you didn't tell us about, that could result in not become accredited. So lack of transparency could certainly do that. In the partnership engagement, there are all kinds of things that agencies are supposed to make us aware of. And, when you make us aware of something that's happening that could negatively impact the people you support, our main goal is to support you as an organization. If you fail to tell us something that has happened at the organization that has had a significant impact on people you support, then that could also result in the revocation of your accreditation. So those are just, a few of the things. But, we mean it when we say we take an appreciative inquiry approach. We also mean it when we say we expect transparency. You're going to get transparency from us. So, we would expect it from you.
Great, thank you. We did get a question, I probably directed towards more Gretchen. How long after submitting the engagement form should I expect to receive confirmation? What are the next steps in the process?
I believe when an accreditation, a request for engagement is submitted, there should be an immediate response. So if you do not see something come back to you, you can reach out to me directly and we'll see where it got snagged up in the pipeline.
Another question, we kind of touched on it earlier, but I think it's really important to maybe give a little more depth to, and I think will have to be our final question. Who should all be involved in the accreditation activities for my organization?
Well, I can take this one if you want. I always say the more the merrier. It's a great time for everybody to really come together and celebrate. It's great to have as many self-advocates involved as possible. Community members, if you have them, any stakeholder that wants to be involved and learn more about the process, those are great to have. Definitely your champions and basic assurances, thought leaders within your organization are a really good cross-section of people to have. So really just looking at, who are the ones who are going to champion this accreditation and keep it going, keep the momentum going in the future.
Excellent. Catherine, Gretchen, anything to add to that before we wrap things up?
No, that was a great answer, Kristen. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we do really appreciate everyone joining us for today's webinar session. This one concludes our 2025 accreditation webinar series, but we will be back next year with another set of accreditation-specific webinars, so be on the lookout for those. We want to thank everyone for joining us today for today's session, taking an hour out of your day. We do appreciate that. And thank you to Catherine, Kristen, and Gretchen for the information shared today. Always a lot of ground covered and a lot of good stuff shared. So thank you all.
Thanks,
Happy
everyone.
holidays to you all, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.